Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. Today's guest is Valerie Oula, the founder of Modern Ritual NYC. She's a Reiki master teacher and a certified Kundalini yoga instructor. I recently met Valerie, and it was very serendipitous because for some reason I have gotten recently interested in Reiki and I really wanted to learn more. And then she told me she had written a book on Reiki called A Little Bit of Reiki, and that she also performs Reiki for a wide number of clients at her studio in Midtown called Modern Ritual. So I, of course, dove into her book and then invited her on the show to share about this very interesting healing modality. So she'll explain a little bit about the history of it and how and why it works, but essentially it is a form of energy medicine or energy healing. Now, this can definitely sound a bit woo-woo. It sounds like something you'd read on Goop and then people are going to make fun of. But having experienced it, I can say that it is quite a powerful modality. It's something that I've known about for years, but have never really done just because I was like, I don't really know if it's going to work. It does seem a bit woo-woo. I don't know if I want to waste my money on that. But now having experienced it, I would say this is definitely something that I would spend my time and money on because I did experience a very big shift and I definitely felt something during this session. So we'll talk about that more fully in the interview. I'll share what I experienced during the sessions and after, and she'll also talk about what she experienced as the practitioner. So whether you've never heard of Reiki before or you simply want to learn more, you'll find this to be a very interesting conversation. Before we get started, check out these brands that make the Happier and Healthier podcast possible. Are you interested in turning your passion for health and wellness into a career that helps hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people live healthier? If so, consider becoming a holistic health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, the original and top health coach certification program. I studied there in 2012 and it completely changed my career path and life. I went from an uninspiring job in finance to an exciting, fulfilling, and rewarding career as a full-time health coach. The program is offered as a 1-year or accelerated 6-month course, and it teaches you a mix of nutrition, coaching, and business. They have some of the top teachers, including Dr. Walter Willett, who was the chair of Harvard's nutrition department for 26 years, Dr. Marion Nestle, a professor at NYU and author of one of my favorite books, Food Politics, Dr. Mark Hyman, who is the medical director at the Cleveland Clinic's Center for Functional Medicine, Dr. Andrew Weil, Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, and so many more. Millions of people are suffering from diet-related illnesses, and I truly believe the world needs more health coaches. That's why I've teamed up with IIN to offer an incredible opportunity to make studying there even easier. You'll get $1,500 off tuition, plus one-on-one mentoring with me, plus you'll be added to my private Facebook mentorship group where you can connect with other students and grads and also practice with them. To get your 3 bonuses, simply email me at maria@mariamarlowe.com. That's MariaMarlowe.com with the subject IIN, and I'll personally send you back the email that will allow you to get all of these amazing bonuses. If you feel called to explore or start a career in health and wellness, definitely reach out. Valerie, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited to have met you actually, because I don't know why, but recently I've gotten interested in Reiki, and it's something that I've known about for a really long time. but just never really experienced, or I didn't know too much about, but I was just very interested and curious about it. And then serendipitously, I met you. And yeah, I was just really excited to meet you, to read your book, and then to experience Reiki with you. So, for everyone who's listening and is like, what the heck is Reiki? Can you just explain what it is?
So, Reiki, very simply, is an energy balancing technique. It's a Japanese modality, and it's really great for anything from physical aches and pains to, emotional upset, to stress, to anxiety, or even to support any goals or projects that you have going on. It's a very gentle, modality. It's very, very simple and very, very gentle.
Yeah, well, it's probably the least invasive sort of
Yes.
treatment that you could possibly do, right? You're not
Absolutely.
even touching, you don't even have to be in the same country as I've
Ex-
experienced.
exactly. You can do New York Dubai connection easily, no problem.
Yeah.
So if you're having a session in person, it would be a very light hands-on touch on or off the body.
All right, so energy healing. So this is something that people probably read about on Goop and, they're a little bit skeptical, right? The
Yeah.
average person, I'm sure, quite skeptical. So can you explain a little bit about the energy and how this is possible that this could actually work and make a difference?
Yeah. So the thing is, everything's connected, right? And so when we look at quantum physics, there's something called quantum entanglement. And basically, there's so much that the science is, just coming to surface. And I know people are still skeptical. So I always say the best thing to do is to actually just experience it. And once you experience it, then you're like, okay, I don't know what happened, but something happened. So essentially, it's energy. Everything's energy, right? So if we think about everything, even if it's solid, when we break it down to its smallest molecular particle, it's vibrating, it's moving, it's energy. So it's tapping into this energy form, this frequency, which is how we can do distance sessions from New York to Dubai and actually feel a shift.
Right. Well, I just even think about sometimes you walk into a room and you can feel the energy of the room, right? Whether it's
Absolutely.
negative energy or a positive
Absolutely.
energy, right?
Absolutely, right?
So we can definitely feel, and I'm sure pretty much everyone has experienced that. And that's just one example of how we can feel energy and how energy is actually there. It's not just some mystical thing.
Well, and here's the thing, we think about, oh, this space around us is empty. It's not empty. It's filled with energy. It's filled with Wi-Fi waves, Bluetooth waves, microwaves, radio waves, all different forms of energy. So when we do something like energy healing, we're just tapping into a different frequency.
Yeah. And can you just share quickly a little bit about the history of Reiki? Like I know you said Japan, but how exactly did it start?
So the lineage that most people learn Reiki nowadays is from Mikao Usui, who was a Japanese, he wasn't a monk. He was like a layperson monk. So that means like, on weekends he would go on retreats and he would serve at the temple, but he wasn't a full-time monk. And he was just a regular guy in the early 1900s and just started going on a spiritual search, and he finally decided to go on this retreat up the mountain because he was looking for enlightenment after years of practicing Buddhism. So Reiki comes from this Japanese lineage, a mix of Buddhism, Shintoism. It's a light hands-on healing, but that's the basic, you'll find like if you Google Reiki, people will say, oh, it came from Egypt or it came from Tibet. All these other civilizations and countries have different forms of hands-on healing, but Reiki, as we learn it and teach it and share it nowadays, is Japanese. Reiki means universal life force energy. So Mikao Usui goes up a mountain looking for enlightenment and, does this fast for like 21 days, meditates, and on the very last day, I think on the 21st day, basically he's meditating and he gets struck by lightning, or he feels like he's struck by lightning, and he passes out. And when he wakes up, he feels like he receives this answer to his seeking, that everything's connected, that everything is one. And he's so excited about this revelation of oneness that he starts like, he's racing down a mountain because he wants to get back back down the mountain to tell everyone how, everything is connected and everything is one. And as he's racing down the mountain, he trips and he hurts himself. And automatically he puts his hands on his foot, to help himself. And that's when he discovers that his hands are activated with healing energy. And so when he makes it off the mountain, he shares his good news with everyone that the whole world is one and everything's connected. And suddenly he has this Reiki energy in his hands to share. And he starts doing, these healings, and he opens a clinic. And there's actually a full-on Reiki clinic in, Tokyo in the early 1900s. And it becomes very, very popular.
Wow, that is so interesting. And, when you were talking about the story and saying how he put his hand on his ankle and realized that there's healing energy, I'm even thinking that sometimes, when you're feeling down or sad or upset or whatever, you just want a hug, right?
Yeah.
You don't really need anything but just a hug, right? And so what is that? It's an energy.
It's energy, but it's human touch, right? It's just touch. We automatically, when we stub our foot or like bump into something, you naturally just put your hands on your body, right? To hold that part. And I think that's what we're already tapping into, is that everyone has this healing energy within themselves. But, we need to be guided to open it up, to activate it, and to connect with it. So we need to be able to basically open our awareness to it. And once your awareness is open, suddenly you're going to notice all kinds of things about energy.
Right. Well, I'm very excited to talk about my experience because Valerie did some Reiki for me over 3 days. We did 2 days back to back, 20 minutes, and then we just did another 20-minute session right before this podcast. So I'm feeling super zen at the moment after a hectic day. So yeah, it's just so interesting because here I am sitting in Dubai, and we should probably explain the process a little bit, just for anyone who's really not clear. So basically what we did is we agreed on a date and a time, and Valerie's like, okay, make sure you're sitting somewhere comfortable. You're not distracted, and just close your eyes, right? There's really not that much else to do.
Yeah. So basically, when we do distance sessions, it's like you want to set yourself up in a relaxing space. You don't want to be driving if you can avoid it. But of course, if you have to, you can still receive the benefits, but it won't be obviously, as relaxing as if you set yourself up and basically get into a meditative space just to receive whatever it is you need to receive. So the way I like to do distance sessions is 3 days, ideally 3 days in a row, but obviously our schedules weren't
Lining up,
able
yes.
to line it up completely, but we got 2 days in and we just did our third day today. And we start with an intention. And I believe your intention was to be more grounded.
Yes, to feel more grounded, having recently moved from New York to Dubai and still looking for an apartment and still planning things and just feeling like I'm juggling 500 balls at one time.
Yeah.
And I just really, that's what I told Valerie, is like, I really need to feel more grounded and calm. And so that was the intention.
Yeah. And so then once I have the intention, you on the other end, you're just sitting, relaxing, receiving. And on my end, I'm just sharing Reiki from where I am. And as you share Reiki, sometimes you receive messages or you see certain things, and it's up to the Reiki practitioner to discern what is meant to be shared and what can just be like passing stuff, And I think the last session we just finished up with, are we fully discussing your session?
Yeah, we can. We can. Yeah, I definitely want to discuss this last session, but let's start with like the first session.
Yeah.
So, like I said, something I'm interested in, didn't really know what to expect. I've read a little bit about it. And so I have to say, when I was sitting there, like I could really feel something. Like I felt like my body, I was like sitting up on my bed with my back like on the headboard. And, I felt like my body was melting in a way, like just kind of like really calm and relaxed. And I know the second time also, because I took notes, I felt like, I don't know, certain organs, I just felt like at some point I felt my heart, or at some part I felt my brain. And yeah, it was just so interesting to actually feel sensations. I know even this last time that we just did it now, I definitely felt like energy in my hands, and I again felt like jelly. And even afterwards, like when I got up I just had to go walk and get like a plug and then come back. I felt like I was like walking through jelly a little bit, which is kind of so it's just incredible that I could actually feel this from so far away.
Yeah. For us, I think everything feels so linear, right? Like consciously, we're like, well, if this, then that. This is logically how things work, right? But when we get into actually like quantum physics, you'll see that there's so much crazy stuff that we can't even possibly imagine. And when I first learned distance healing, I was like, how is this possible? And then I just let it go because things started happening and people started feeling things. And I started, when I was sharing, I would feel things. And then the other person, you would share it with the other person halfway around the world. And they would say, oh my God, I felt something similar, and it's just through these learned experiences, because I'm a major skeptic. I'm the biggest skeptic. And it's through these shared experiences that I know that this stuff works, that
Right.
something is happening, that energy is being opened up and shifting, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
And
So,
like I can say, I mean, in the moment, obviously, I felt, some sensation, some energy, but really the most profound thing is I did feel, first of all, calmer, more relaxed in general. And I felt like definitely a shift in my attitude because it was my attitude was a big part of the problem. So,
it, but it's always us, right?
yeah,
It's
it's always
always
us.
us.
It's like, what's that saying? Like, oh, if you have all of these problems, what's the common denominator? It's you. So
Yeah, exactly.
it was definitely, I was making my life harder than it had to be, I feel like. And I don't know whether it's the Reiki or what you said to me, whatever it was, but everything's really shifted because we did those 2 sessions 2 weeks ago, like a week
Yeah.
and a half, something like
Yeah.
that. And I can say, like, I feel like a different person. So,
Well, I mean, I believe it,
yeah.
and I feel like the very first session that we did, I felt like something came through, like I heard like bloom where you're planted. And that just felt so right because, when you think about bloom where you're planted, it's like I saw like tree roots and like, moving through this resistance to like settling in to where you really are. And even, our last session just before felt a lot of resistance and any residual doubt or fear or anxiety just being burned through, like through the navel area, through your core. And it was just this burning. And it's almost like I saw these little slips of paper. And I don't know. This is, and sometimes, not everything is something, but it's just how I see the energy. And it may or may not resonate for, whomever I share it with. But I saw like little slips of paper. When you write things and you want to burn them to like clear them out, that's what I saw happening. It was like all these little slips of paper that felt like self doubt or any anxiety or any residual resistance, like actually burning through from your core, like activating that fire and burning through it. Is
I
very
love that image, actually. That's a
oh,
really great image to
okay,
put it
good.
in. Yeah. So, having experienced it, definitely feeling a shift in perspective, mood, just stress, like level has definitely went down a few notches for sure.
Mhm.
And I just feel like I'm approaching situations differently because I
Yeah.
think I was telling you 2 weeks ago when I was like, oh, I'm like so like anxious and stressed and everything sucks and everything's going wrong.
And the podcast doesn't come on, the tech doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Like I was literally having every problem, like you could imagine, everything was going wrong. And I was getting really frustrated. And you know what? After that, I've kind of adopted, after I think the second session, like maybe a couple of days later, I've adopted the mantra, don't worry, be happy, or everything's
Mhm.
going to be okay, right? Don't
Yeah.
stress. And so I've been really been living by that. And things have been going better, but there's still a lot of things that keep going wrong. However, my reaction to how
It's
I'm
different.
dealing with them is very different. It's making it a lot less stressful, actually,
Sure. I mean, we cause our own stress.
for sure.
It's really how we see things. And when we can shift how we look at things, there's that whole quote like, when you change how you look at things, everything changes, something like that, right? But, the Reiki energy, it's very gentle, but it's very supportive. And the way I like to think about it is that it just brings you what you need, right? So sometimes we think we need very specific things, but once you do a session, you trust that you get what you need anyway, you know? And when we have like technology issues or it feels like there are roadblocks going on in our life, I know this probably isn't popular, but it's usually our energy. It's usually our own resistance somewhere that is creating these roadblocks. And you can almost use it as a way to go, okay, what do I need to do for myself? What do I need to look at to reset? Because something's off, right? And so when we run into roadblocks, we're such in a do society. We want to just power through it. But, there's resistance in us for some reason. And it's something that we need to look at. And it could be like some kind of old limiting belief that is starting to show up, or it's some kind of, just anxiety that's starting to show up. But all these things that show up just means they need attention, and we need to pay attention to our inner awareness, what's going on inside. And I love that that's what Reiki brings to people, because suddenly you're like, all right, you feel like you have a little more breathing room, right? It
Right.
doesn't like cure it, right? It's
Right.
not like, oh, suddenly everything's fine. It's that it helps you look at things differently. It helps you reset in a way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's a great reset and a
Mhm.
reframe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know what it was. Again, maybe it was what you said, or now that I was just calmer, I'm looking at things differently. I'm thinking about things differently. And I think there was many ways sometimes to get to your goal, your end path. And so,
Yeah.
you know, if you have these fears and these things like restrictions that you're putting on yourself, whatever, there's many ways that you could deal with them. Most people try to like talk it out, do things, but Reiki could be another avenue to kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah, just shift that and help you work
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm yeah, just sort of blown away whole thing. And one of the things, so I loved your book, A Little Bit of Reiki, which is just like this very quick, you can read it literally like in a couple hours. And it just gives you a great introduction to what Reiki is. And one thing that I love that you wrote about were the 5 principles of Reiki. So what are they?
So the 5 principles of Reiki were actually, the actual teaching that Mikao Usui gave to his students. And there's many different variations of it, but it's very simple. Just for today, don't worry. Just for today, don't anger. Please accept everything and give thanks, and strive to achieve the teachings in action and be kind. So, for a long time, when I first learned Reiki, just for today, don't worry was like the thing that stayed with me the most, because I was literally like the biggest worrier. As my guy used to say, I was the manager of the worry store. So I like worry store was always open and I was always managing it because I was super anxious. And what Reiki brought to my life was not just like this innate sense that we all are connected, but just that very first line, just for today, don't worry. All I did was like remember it, and it really helped me to shift, you
Well,
know?
same thing. So I think that's what really set me on my don't worry, be happy path was because I read this and I was like, just for today, don't worry. Okay, I could do that. I could try for today, as long as you're telling me
Yeah.
not forever. One day I could do it, right?
You know what? It's so much more manageable. And even if you don't want to do just for today, you can say, just for this hour, just for right now, just for this actual, in this moment, I can let that go. Okay.
Right. And I think that's one of the great things about Reiki is that it helps put you in the present moment and takes you
Hmm.
out of the future and the past.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so once we're doing Reiki, so we know that it could reduce stress, it can, help us feel better, but are there any side effects of Reiki, like negative side effects of Reiki?
Sure. So Reiki is energy balancing, right? And I like to say it's like acupuncture, but without the needles. So we're just using what we call universal life force energy to basically open up any blockages in your system or clear out any stale old energy, things like that. And so when you think about doing any kind of clearing, any kind of detox, in a sense, you're going to maybe not feel so great sometimes. Sometimes people get nauseated, or sometimes people will break out into a full on like cold or something. And it's a way of your body like just clearing stuff out. Right. And I like to say that when you're going through something uncomfortable, if you're like full on sick after Reiki or something, it's your body's way of like physically clearing it, getting rid of what it needs to get rid of.
Right. Yeah. I actually had
So,
another guest on the podcast, Anella from Human Garage, and we were talking a lot about how negative emotions and traumas actually get trapped in your fascia.
oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and we hold trauma in our body. It's like if, plenty of people have gone to yoga classes and like come into a pigeon pose and then burst out into tears because things are getting opened up, things are getting released from your body. And so it can absolutely happen that after Reiki, you might not feel so great
Right.
initially.
So you can move that trapped energy, whether it's physical, someone else
Yeah.
physically manipulating it, you manipulating
Yeah.
it, say in yoga, doing something like Reiki. So there's
Yeah.
multiple ways that you can deal with it.
Yeah.
And what's with the water? Because I know after each session, you're like, drink a lot of water, drink a lot of water. And I was actually really thirsty.
So water helps the clearing process, as with anything, right? And when we think of our bodies as, these energetic systems, water is the thing that helps to move energy, right? It's a conductor of energy. So when we are in a clearing process or whatever it is, our body needs water, but our system needs water. Our energetic system also needs water. So water is key. I used to do Reiki at the Wild Bird Fund, which is in New York City, and they rescue like, all kinds of, if you find any wildlife like injured pigeon or a squirrel, you can take it to the Wild Bird Fund and they will help to rehab and save these animals. But I used to volunteer Reiki there. And inevitably, every time after I was done working with the birds, we're working with them through the cages, they would fall asleep in the middle of it. And then after I was done, they would go drink water. See, I didn't have to tell them to drink water. They would just go drink water.
That's
So,
so interesting.
yeah. So innately they know,
Right. Yeah, we can feel it in our bodies.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's interested in finding a Reiki practitioner, what should they be looking for and what questions should they be asking?
Sure. Reiki is so popular nowadays because it's super simple. And I think that's what makes it so accessible for people. I like to say that for myself, at least, I would want to work with someone who's been practicing for some time. Because nowadays you can do Reiki 1, 2, and 3 in one weekend, which is not how I teach Reiki. I like to teach Reiki in a more traditional way, which is, at least 21 days between Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, at least 21 days between Reiki 2 and Reiki 3, which is the master level. But different teachers teach it in different ways. But I think what's important is you ask your practitioner how long they've been practicing versus looking at the level of, oh, well, they're a Reiki master.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, I'd rather go with the timing, like how long they've been actually working with energy.
Yeah. I'm sure recommendations are a great way. And then also if you just vibe with the person, that would
Exactly. Because essentially that's what it really is. You need to make sure, like, check out their Instagram, see if you like their vibe, and then talk to them, have a conversation, check out their website, that kind of thing.
Right. And so, yeah, so you could do it in person. So Valerie, you have a studio in New York City, right? Where
I
people come.
do.
And then you can also do it over, we just did it. You don't even do it over Skype. We just connected, talked for like a second, and then you're like, okay, hang up. Just sit there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, most people who come in to see you for Reiki, what are they coming in? Like, what are their intentions or what are their issues?
Sure. You know what? My clients run the gamut of like actual physical issues. I get a lot of clients with fibroid issues. But then I also have clients who, are looking for a partner. But then I have clients who are in between jobs and they don't know what they're doing and they're like feeling like they need a career change. So it's really, or, then you have clients who are super anxious all the time. It really, it's New York City. It runs the gamut.
Everyone's stressed and anxious.
Exactly.
So one last question that I'd love to ask everyone is if you have just one tip or piece of advice for our listeners on how they can live a happier and healthier life, what would that be?
Well, it's going to sound really trite, but meditation is key because meditation is what brings you this space to begin to get some awareness around what's going on in your life. And when you create that space for yourself, you can actually hear what's going on.
Yeah, makes sense. I think meditation's great. And one question that reminds me of that I did have is because I felt so relaxed after these Reiki sessions. I'm talking like my body I felt like at one point when I was sitting there, my head sort of just like drooped down a little bit, but not like I was sleeping or anything like that, just like so calm and relaxed. That's like the closest most people will ever get to meditation, right? Is sitting still, quiet. So I wonder if that has something to do with it too.
Absolutely. You have to, the Reiki helps you get into a more meditative space as well. It's the Reiki energy. It's the energy help. But, essentially the energy brings you what you need. So somebody else might have like a session where they feel super anxious, but at the end of it, it clears. So everyone has all kinds of different experiences as well.
Right. I love that it brings you what you need. And I love that you actually say that or think that, like, to be open to what you need.
Yeah. Because we always think we know what we need, but it's not actually what we need sometimes.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing about Reiki. Where can everyone find you? Your book is on Amazon, but tell everyone where they can find you.
So my website is www.modernritualnyc.com. I teach at Mindful. I will be soon at the Well when the Well opens in New York City. I also hold small meditation classes in my space on 26th and Broadway. I'm on Instagram at Valerie Oula, Oula. And the book is also in stores at Barnes & Nobles and, everywhere else online. It's called A Little Bit of Reiki. Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Valerie.
Thanks so much.